This is a video by reallifelore, made possible by Skillshare, home to over 15,000 online classes in art, photography, and more. Click the link in the description below for a free 2-month trial at the end of this video. One of the biggest headlines of this year is something that you probably haven't heard about yet. The world population recently just surpassed 7.5 billion people. There are more human beings alive on this planet right now than at any other point in our planet's history, but a strange question that you may have never thought about is this one. How many humans have ever existed through the thousands of years of our history, and what would happen if somehow every single one of these humans who had ever existed was brought back to life at the same age and in the same geographical location that they were in when they died? First, it is estimated that ever since the year 50,000 BC, which is a good starting date for the emergence of truly modern humans, there have been a total of 108.2 billion human beings who have ever been born. Since the current global population is 7.5 billion, that means that a shocking 7% of all humans who have ever existed are currently alive right now. What's perhaps even more interesting, though, is how that ratio of the living to the dead will increase in the future. The global population in 2050, for example, is expected to reach 9.7 billion people, which means that at that point, the amount of living humans will represent 8.6% of all humans who have ever existed. But even still by then, the number of dead humans will outnumber the living by 11 to 1. So what would happen if every single human who has ever died suddenly all reappeared back to life right now in 2017? Firstly, that would mean that 100.7 billion people would be added to the global population. In a previous video, I explained that if you took the 7.5 or so billion people currently alive and put them into an area as crowded as the Kowloon walled city, then the entire world population would fit into an area roughly the same size of the state of Palestine. If you took the 100.7 billion dead people and fit them into the same population density, then they would all fit into an area roughly the same size of Austria. Maybe if we wanted something a little more comfortable and fit everybody into the same population density of downtown Manhattan, then the living would fit into an area the size of Ecuador, while the dead would fit into an area the size of Argentina. But what would the 100.7 billion dead people actually look like? Well, they would probably be mostly very young. For most of human history, life expectancy was very low and child mortality rates were very high. Life expectancy until the end of the Neolithic era, for example, is believed to have been just 33 years. But life expectancy is believed to have actually decreased to just 26 years during the Bronze and Iron Ages. Life expectancy in classical Greece was just 28 years, and in classical Rome it was between 20 and 30 years. Much of this is due to the fact that most children during this time period would die before the age of 10. In the Roman Empire, for example, if a child survived until 10, then their life expectancy dramatically increased from 20 to 30 years at birth up to 47.5 years. Pre-Columbian American life expectancy was between 25 and 30 years, and perhaps the highest life expectancy anywhere in the world before the Industrial Revolution was within the medieval Islamic Caliphate, where the average person at birth was expected to survive past the age of 35. For comparison, the lowest life expectancy anywhere in the world currently is in Sierra Leone, where it is 50.1 years. Wealthy, noble, or educated dead people, however, would be much older. Scholars in the medieval caliphate had much higher life expectancies than the average person, approaching 69 to 75 years old. And English aristocrats in the year 1500 had life expectancies as high as 71 years. Which, interestingly, is the same life expectancy as the global average today, meaning that the average human born anywhere in the world today will likely live to be as old as an elite member of the English nobility did 500 years ago. With all of this data, it is therefore probably safe to assume that a majority of the dead brought back to life would be much younger than the current world population is. Perhaps even a majority of them would be children or infants, and certainly most would be under the age of 33. The only other two things that we can probably know with a reasonable amount of certainty is that there would probably be more males than females, since in the modern world the amount of babies born are about 51% male and 49% female. If that's always been true, then it's probable that a majority of the dead are male. Finally, most of the dead would appear in rural areas of the world since historically, most of the world's population has lived in the country. As recently as 1950, only 29% of the world's population lived in cities, so yeah, there would be an overwhelming amount of country folk in the dead population. Obviously, such a massive and sudden influx of population would put an incredible strain on global resources. There are estimates that our planet may be able to support a population of 10 billion humans, so if 100.7 billion people suddenly popped back into existence, the results would be catastrophic. It would be impossible to feed everybody since we literally would not have enough farmland in the entire world to produce enough food for that large of a population increase. We already use a land area larger than all of Asia globally to produce enough food for 7.5 billion people, so we would simply run out of space very quickly. It's likely that around 90% of the world population with combined living and previously dead would die from starvation within 2 months of the event happening. A huge majority of the people brought back to life would return to their graves very shortly as a result of this. More than likely, after the initial shock of 100 billion people returning to the planet was over, a massive global war would follow over the control of scarce food, water, and other resources. The end result would be most people perishing, and the world would likely stabilize around a population of 10 billion a couple of months later, meaning that maybe around 2.5 billion of the previously dead humans, or a little over 2%, would survive the apocalypse and coexist with the currently living humans afterwards. Regardless of how totally ludicrous and impossible of a situation this actually is, it's still interesting to think that right now you can get to know 7% of the amount of humans who have ever existed. And you'll never get to know the other 93% of humans who existed before your time. This video was helped made possible by Skillshare. If you enjoy watching and learning from my videos, then Skillshare is another great resource that you can use for additional learning. It's an online community for creators that's home to over 15,000 classes in design, photography, productivity, and more. You can take a class, try a project, or even teach a class yourself, and best of all, you can get an exclusive 2-month free trial by clicking the link in the description of this video. You'll be directly supporting my channel, and you'll also get 2 free months of unlimited classes. And if you enjoy the site, then membership begins at around $10 a month after your free 2-month trial is over. So thanks again for watching this video. If you're interested in future videos just like this one, then I hope that you'll subscribe to my channel by clicking here. You can visit my Patreon and vote on future video topics by clicking here, check out some older videos of mine over on the left, and I hope to see you again for another new video next Friday.